There are only 4 things in the world that are undefeated. Father Time, the Internal Revenue Service, a woman's intuition, and a pickup truck that should have died 100,000 miles ago. And any truck guy worth his salt will hold on to that perpetually dying truck for as long as financially and mechanically possible, even if it isn't cool and doesn't do anything for how he's perceived. If an F-150 is for the high school quarterback whose finger always smells like a Red Lobster prep station, and a Silverado is for the kid who sells expired Ativan and no-call, no-shows at Texas Roadhouse, then the Dodge Dakota is for the kid who works weekends at his father's roofing company while he waits to hear back from the hiring manager at Napa Auto Parts. A self-assured loner who doesn't feel the need to express his manhood through the simulated combat of high school athletics or a white-collar job market. And he's going to hold on to that truck as long as he can because they don't really make them like this anymore. The Dodge Dakota is part of a dying breed of pickups. The young man truck. Ugh. The truck for the person who's just starting his business or just starting his working life, yet he's not at the point where he needs a larger truck. It's affordable and simplistic, and it does enough to get by. It's not going to be headache-free, but you treat it right, and it'll last you right up until the age you stop remembering the maiden names of the girls you went to high school with. And then you'll probably trade up for a Ram 3500 and overdraw your bank account buying a socket wrench because you're too proud to ask for help finding where you left the one you already have. And you'll drive that overpriced 1-ton, 2-tone pedestrian projectile to the nearest Costco to buy a vertical wood smoker and get your spot taken by a BRZ with more moving violations than Liberty Mutual has mascots. Say what you want about the Dodge Dakota, but it succeeds by not being one of these enormous road tumors for men of permeable opportunity, because the chance to do anything interesting at all just passes right through them like a street sweeper through Center City. And for what? A truck that exists as an extra token in the arcade game called How to Finally Get That Handshake from Dad?
I'm your dad.
And yet, can a mid-sized young man truck like the Dodge Dakota still justify itself once your life circumstances have outgrown the need for it?
I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't promoting the latest giveaway car, 2001 Plymouth Prowler. Go to fanathem.com/regular cars, pick up some of our merch, and someone is going to win this at the beginning of September. That's fanathem.com/regular cars. Buy some cool merch, and we're giving away this very Prowler. It's like, it's the waspy aerial atom. I've been driving it for almost a month. I have yet to see another one of these things. And by the way, you can do a burnout with these things. And all you gotta do is like lock it in first gear, crank the wheel, and dump all the way to the floor. It will chirp these 20s in the back.
Dodge Dakota. It comes used right off the factory line. The Dodge Dakota was nicknamed the Mini Ram, but perhaps a better term for it would be the anti-Ram, because this pretty much rejects the modern idea of a pickup truck. This could not be, nor could it ever be, a mere symbolic accessory, the way a lot of current trucks seem to appeal solely to people who don't need them for any practical reason. It didn't make sense to have a Dodge Dakota in the 90s if you didn't need it for something. It hardly makes sense now, unless you're actually going to use it for some sort of pragmatic purpose. It's just not going to perform the same cosmetic or sociological function. This mid-size truck competed with the Ford Ranger, the Chevy S10, and the Toyota pickup. But when it was created, American mid-size pickup trucks weren't really a thing, at least not for Dodge. They had the compact D50 and they had the bigger, thirstier Ram, but in the post-fuel crisis, late-stage malaise era, it made sense to provide a sort of middle ground. So we got the Dakota, which arrived for model year 1987. And it basically fathered the midsize American pickup truck from its tumescent nutsack, and for damn near 20 years gave us the only midsize pickup truck with a V8 engine option. And this would appeal to younger buyers looking to enter the workforce because it was a functional truck with V8 power at a relatively affordable price, with the base going for a little over $9,000, which would total in the ballpark of $26,000 today. And maybe it wasn't always a good truck, but it offered so much in terms of practicality that I would argue it almost didn't need to be good to have value. Now, for 1993, you had the choice between the 3.9-liter Magnum V6 and the 5.2-liter Magnum V8. This is the 3.9-liter Magnum V6, making around 180 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque, with a 4-speed automatic transmission with overdrive, and factory-rated fuel economy of around 14 city, 18 highway, and about 15 miles per gallon combined, which lines up with the reported mileage of my marvelous volunteer Dagan here, who notes that the gas light comes on at around 155 to 165 miles. But then who buys a truck to save gas money, especially a parts bin truck like this? And I don't even mean that in a derogatory way. Dodge was able to keep this affordable by using D-series components and other materials sourced from existing Dodge models, and it made for a mostly profitable truck that wouldn't preclude younger drivers from owning it. Body-on-frame construction, a leaf spring live axle rear end, cheap plastic interior like toys at your grandparents' house. I don't think you could say it was ever truly a hit, but it wasn't this catastrophe either, because this truck came of age in a period when being huge wasn't a prerequisite for being useful. Yet America kind of fell out of love with small trucks into the 2010s. And Ram didn't help themselves by no longer offering a regular cab, so the Dakota was put to bed in 2011 during its third generation. But it's been announced now that it's coming back, and I'm interested to see if there's any actual appetite for it now that the size obsession has sort of waned a bit. But if nothing else, I still feel like finding a decent used Dakota would make for a good young man truck because it's built for the kinds of things young men like to put their cars through. Which isn't to say that it's invincible, and it's also not to say that it's ugly either, but just that it's perpetually in a state where its best years passed long before you ever found it. But even if Kelley Blue Book values these between $1,600 to $2,000 at most, and you can find one in good enough shape to justify the investment, there's still going to be the issue that, well, it's a Dodge Dakota. And this is where we come to the unfortunate reality that this is not a great driving experience. It's rickety, it's got clunky shifting, and I don't even know what's going on with this suspension, but the road vibrations give the feel of riding on the surface of a dried out peach pit. The steering is unnervingly loose to where I was kind of wondering if there was some bolt missing somewhere, but either way, even if the steering were perfect, it feels underpowered even considering its age and wear, to the extent that I'm not sure what kind of payload this could realistically handle. Standard configurations are factory rated for up to 1,250 pounds, though some configurations can get you over 1,400. But even that seems like it'd be a tall order here for how loose in the tail this is, and how much power you seem to be missing here. I wouldn't want to tow anything uphill in this. But despite feeling mechanically old, Dagan told me that this was in damn near showroom condition when he bought it in 2023. It only had around 57,000 miles because it was gently used by a missionary couple who sanded and spray painted it and then did missions in it. Now, Dagan used this Dakota for a handyman business for a few years and even took it on a cross-country honeymoon with his wife, totaling over 4,000 miles without issue. This is basically to say that while this is absolutely a truck that has seen better days, it's not actually as worn down as its age would suggest, even if it can sometimes feel that way. And this is where I sort of find this Dakota tricky to talk about, because while I'm not sure I would say it's good, I did find myself enjoying this. It feels like exactly the kind of truck I would buy if I could get away with being a truck guy. You know, a truck that's always flirting with retirement but never actually hanging it up, like a high school principal. But it's also giving you everything it's got, like a high school science teacher. You get up to highway speeds and you just hold it there, and life will be all right while you do it. I would rather drive this at 65 miles an hour for 90 minutes than drive it at 30 for 10, because at lower speeds you notice the play on the steering a lot more, you notice the vibrations. But at highway speeds, it's like gently grabbing your kid by the back of their shirt and saying, "You listen here, you behave right now, you straighten up, you say please and thank you, and you stop bothering your sister until this christening ceremony is over, so help me God, or I will shove you right back up your mother's kid cavity." It's a cruising truck. It wants to be going above 65, even as it fights like hell to get there. I mean, if this truck were a person, it'd be a man holding off on surgery because he hasn't met his deductible yet. It just feels like it needs more work done to it. But unlike the Ford E450 I drove last summer, this is capable of smoothing out and never feels like I'm courting a panic attack just by driving this on the highway. And if I'm honest, this kind of is the case argument for why driving is such a singular experience tied to the individual, because I'm struggling to really pinpoint why I enjoy this truck as a truck despite it being kind of bad. And I think it ultimately comes down to how it feels like a car rather than some large, unwieldy mechanical beast. And that makes an even better argument for its utility, because it drives like a car but can presumably do all the truck things without feeling heavy or handling like you're trying to stir molasses with a plastic straw. I mean, that was initially one of my issues with it, that it was almost too playful and not heavy enough. But once you get the hang of this truck, it becomes sort of low stress, and I appreciate that more than fun most of the time. And look, not all modern pickup trucks are bad, okay? Not at all, but it always feels like the ones I drive are bland at best and soulless at worst. I look at some of these $80,000 Hemi-powered monstrosities, and all I really see is a blue-collar costume for a kid who's had the same 3 girlfriends all his life. He knocked up 2 of them, but didn't accompany either to the clinic. He'll probably marry the 3rd after the other 2 leave for nursing school in Nissan Altimas and white toenail polish. The Dodge Dakota is not a truck for him, nor is it a truck for the over-leveraged weekend dad who never sees his kids because they look too much like their mother. And the Dodge Dakota is not for the timeshare owner who's underwater on his Cybertruck, fleeing from his demons for an hour every day on a Planet Fitness elliptical, mentally relitigating every store return that didn't go his way, and lamenting the impulse purchase-shaped hole in his bank account where a refund ought to have gone. The Dodge Dakota has a much more industrious character than that. It's practical first and aesthetically appealing, well, not at all, really, but that kind of makes it more appealing, right? Modern pickups are very individualistic, I feel. They're about individual identity rather than any sort of collective social role. They're huge and aggressive in order to project an image of competency and consequence to the world. This is a person to be reckoned with, and they are formidable and handy. Traffic lights tremble to turn red in their presence. They can always be late, yet still be considered punctual, and they only have to measure once before cutting. But the aesthetic of the truck being so important says that it's more for you than for anything you could actually do with it. But the Dodge Dakota is from a less individualistic society, a more collective society, when you still made connections with other people in person and did the hard work together. You split a pizza and a case of beer afterwards, and those strong social connections led to a greater sense of community so that you didn't go searching for it in a bro-dozer at 11% interest. You're not rolling the loan over into a new truck every 18 months because you were lulled into it by the truck-obsessed twangs of the bro country genre, or advertising that links pickup truck ownership to family values and exaggerated adventure. That's all it really is. That's what pickup truck advertising is. It's just a mini referendum on what it means to be a man in a red state. Congratulations on your new truck. Your hood line is higher than a skydiving hippie, and there's no car you can't run off the road. My arms are stronger than lane keep assist. Roll Tide, brother! But the Dodge Dakota hardly feels like it was manufactured to even be appealing. It's here to do a job and to help you do yours. Who cares what it looks like or what it tells other people about you? Who cares if it's even good? It's affordable, it runs, it upsets the apple cart of the social order by daring to suggest that you can be masculine without the world knowing about it. We can transmit words and ideas, but we can't exactly transmit understanding. So when people hear the word manly, they don't hear guy who handles his shit without making it everybody else's problem. They just hear Hulk smash, and they think that's what it means to be a man, so they get a big pickup truck because it's a visual shortcut to masculine identity, to masculine acceptance. But the Dodge Dakota doesn't look pretty and doesn't really care about your comfort. It's here to work, like the one member who actually cares about the group project. And while I won't argue this is the best truck, I would say that a truck whose appearance you don't care about will probably be more useful in the long run than a truck that exists for attention first and practical use second. I spent a lot of time thinking about whether or not I wanted to put this in the bottom 5, because even as I enjoyed it, it sort of reminded me of that Ford E450, in that there were moments where even as I was enjoying myself, I had this constant stab of anxiety because it felt like, oh man, we might be in trouble here, mechanically speaking. But generally, I did find that this held up better than that E450 did. And looking at the bottom 5, I don't feel like this is bad enough for me to finally kick the Nissan Sentra off of this list altogether after 3 years. I feel like to add a vehicle to the bottom 5, it needs to justify me getting rid of the Nissan Sentra, because no matter which position I add a new car to the bottom 5, it will be knocking off that Nissan Sentra. So as it stands right now, the 1993 Dodge Dakota will fall in the crack of the race to the bottom, neither top 5 nor bottom 5. That means the top 5 remains the same and the bottom 5 also remains the same. I'd like to thank Dagan for giving so generously of his time and of his truck as well. It was a wonderful filming experience, even as it was hot as balls the entire day. But that honestly makes me appreciate your time sacrifice all the more. So thank you, Dagan. It was really great getting to meet you, and I hope you enjoyed the filming day. Now, if you have a vehicle you think can win the race to the bottom, something so uniformly awful that I would find no redeeming qualities to it whatsoever, and you're willing to come to us in southeastern Pennsylvania, please reach out to me at regularcarstheroman@gmail.com. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, tap the bell icon so you're notified for every new video. Or if you'd like to support us in the biggest possible way to continue to make these videos, join us on Patreon for just $1 for early and ad-free videos along with other exclusive content. You can also check out merch links in the description. But either way, I just want to remind you that your viewership is enough. Just watching the video, that means so much. So thank you for your time and have an outstanding rest of your week.